All right, so we are recording now. And without further ado, I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce you to our panelists slash subject matter experts. Anna is in the background as one of our panelists. She'll be monitoring some of the Q&A, and we may bring her on to answer questions. But the true star of the show today is Brenda Moore, our keynote speaker. Brenda's worked at the credit union for over 23 years and has enjoyed every minute of it. Brenda's been a supervisor for two different departments here in the credit union. She was part of the financial wellness team previously in her career before taking on a role in our member care services department. After spending some time there, she came back to financial wellness approximately 2 years ago because of the love she has for assisting our member owners with some of the topics we'll be covering today. Brenda's designated as a certified credit union financial counselor, and when asked, said that a favorite part of her job is talking with our members, helping them see a brighter path no matter what their situation. Brenda's a wife and mother and enjoys spending time with her family as well as crafting and writing. Brenda, I know I'm going to be checking in with you for polling questions and questions in general, but for now, I'll turn it over to you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Jack. I'm really excited to be here. I'll say it again. Everyone said it so many times already. Happy New Year. I'm really excited to start a new year and have an opportunity to discuss with you some of the challenges that concerns Americans, and note that while we can't change everything happening around us, obviously, we can make personal decisions that affect our well-being financially and in other ways. But before we begin, I want to share something I recently learned. I like to start my day with reflection, gratitude, reading, especially reading that inspires. So today I read about a unique library called the Library of Mistakes. You heard me. Library of Mistakes. This place was founded in Edinburgh, Scotland. And the library's goal is to help avoid future financial mistakes, such as those that occurred in 1929 and in 2008 that brought down the world's economy. It features a collection of more than 2,000 books that can help educate the next generation of economists. And it serves as a perfect example of how, according to the library's curators, their words, not mine, smart people keep doing stupid things. The curators believe that the only way to build a strong economy is to learn from prior mistakes. Their global initiative is to improve understanding of finance, business, and human behavior, one mistake at a time. And here in financial wellness, of course, we know that things happen that are beyond our control sometimes, but our hope is similar. We want to create understanding and help you to define goals and help you consider behaviors that limit your ability to see your resolutions become a reality. So with that, we'll get started. Um, I want to share too some of the things that, according to Google, are at the top of New Year's resolutions. Um, I'm expecting that financing or financial ways or changes are at the top of the list, but here they are. Career advancement, financial planning, education and learning, organization and productivity, travel, adventure, self-care and mental health, volunteering and giving back. Of course, relationships and social connections are definitely one of those very strong, one of those things that people realize in the pandemic are more important than ever. So with that, we're going to discuss our agenda next. America's relationship with debt, good debt versus bad debt, 4 steps to become debt free, and how the credit union's financial wellness team can help and provide some tools and resources. We'll go now, Jack, to a poll question.
Yes, indeed. All right, so you guys should see a polling question pop up on your screen. Again, if you have a mobile device, try swiping left or right to bring up that screen and submit your responses. But just a general poll of the audience, we want to know what your New Year's resolutions might be for 2024. Obviously, there's 10 or more that you could make, like Brenda read off. But we want to know if A, you want to eat healthier, B, you want to travel more, C, you want to pay off debt, or D, some other resolution that you might have made. Brenda, did you make any resolutions that you want to share, or is that personal?
Oh, well, actually, I did, Jack, and my resolution includes more family time. Have family all across the US, and we don't always put a lot of value in the amount of time that we spend together. So I want to do better about that this year.
Love that. And I was reading some similar articles as you, and a lot of people have stated that, especially, on the heels of such a life-changing event such as the pandemic. I think a lot of people have gone back to those values and want to employ them in the coming year.
I agree. I don't think that's a bad thing at all.
Not at all, not at all. Well, let's see what our audience had to say. It looks like a majority of the respondents did choose pay off debt, so they're in a good place.
Yeah.
A handful also said eat healthier, travel more, and other. And there were about 30% that couldn't quite find the response button. That's all well and good. We want to thank you to those of you that participated, and for those of you that number one is to pay off debt. Brenda's here to tell you more. Brenda,
Yeah.
back to you.
All right. Fantastic. So we'll give you some very staggering numbers. You know, we all know America continues to face the current pandemic. Things haven't gotten quite back to normal yet. Record unemployment, widespread economic anxiety, just a lot of things. If you read or listen to the news today, you're likely to hear about yet another company that's downsized or closed altogether, filing bankruptcy. There's been a lot of fallout, and here are some numbers, unfortunately, to substantiate that. American consumer debt of all types, 17.29 trillion with a T. If it were a thousand, that would be cool, but trillion is staggering. Total credit card debt, 1.21 trillion. Average household debt, $167,947. And Gen X, unfortunately, carries the most consumer debt of any generation. And as we all know, debt causes a lot of stress and unfortunately is one of those leading causes for divorce. We'll go next and talk about average debt balances by generation. You hear these Gen X, Gen Z, all these different categories often, but I hope that by seeing this, you'll see where you fall and see what these numbers look like for the different generations based on age, etc. I'm a baby boomer, so I'm not at the top of the debt chain, but I'm very close. I'm second there and working to improve that definitely um, as part of my goals, including travel, of course, addressing debt and addressing things that challenge my ability to maybe retire at some point in life. Um, I'm looking more seriously at those things. And there you have it. And who would know, and maybe you do, that the silent generation has a place on this board as well. Can you imagine 75 years old and above, still with a significant amount of debt, 40,925 average debt balance? With that, we'll go to yet another poll question.
All right. Thanks, Brenda. Yeah, we got a little trivia here for those uh, willing to submit a response. Take your best guess. Which state has the highest average credit card debt? Is it A, Connecticut, B, New Jersey, C, Maryland, or D, Alaska? Again, for those of you responding, we do not track your answers on an individual basis. This is anonymous, and you can feel free to take a guess without fear of being chastised or anything like that. Brenda, I noticed, and we're broadcasting live from Fort Worth, Texas. I'm happy to see, at least for my own good and for my those around me, Texas isn't one of the possible answer choices.
So true. Because of the size of Texas, I am a little surprised that we didn't make the list, but glad at the same time that we aren't on this list.
Right?
Uh, yeah, but I think our viewers are going to be surprised when they find out the correct answer.
Yes, indeed. A majority, an overwhelming majority, I might add, guessed New Jersey at 41%, followed by a tie between Maryland and Alaska at 11%. One person guessed Connecticut, and another 36% again couldn't find where to respond. We'll give them a break. But
Sure.
I won't do a drum roll or anything like that. Brenda, you want to volley up the correct answer?
Yes, the answer begins with A, Alaska. Can you believe
Interesting.
that?
No.
Alaska. States with the highest and lowest credit card debt are not necessarily proportional to the cost of living in the areas, but in early 2023, Alaska was the state with the most average credit card debt per person. They actually average about $900 more than everyone else nationally.
Very interesting. Well, I know we probably don't have a ton of
Yeah.
people in Alaska here today, but everybody here wants to learn a little bit more about how to handle their debt. So
Yeah.
dive right into the meat and potatoes of it, right?
Yeah, let's do it. So, not all debt is good, not all debt is bad. So, we're going to talk about the differences. Good debt basically is anything that increases your net worth, debt on items that increase in value over time, debt that you can easily pay off in a short amount of time. Examples of these are mortgages, an education loan, particularly, I should point out an education loan that allows your career to develop and further. Okay. A business loan. Business loans are not a negative thing. They can certainly propel your business forward and may be very necessary. And then let's talk about bad debt. The obvious high interest loans, debt on something that decreases in value faster than you can pay it off, high balances on revolving debt. And the examples are payday loans, high interest credit cards, auto loan balances that are greater than the value of the vehicle. And one of the things that I do want to stress that's very important is that any debt, good debt, it can turn into bad debt really quick when you can't afford to pay back what you borrowed. So being in the right mindset about what amount you take as a loan or credit cards and all of that, you need to be very diligent about making sure that you can afford what you're actually involving yourself with, where debt comes. Okay. And now for what the real reason you are here is to learn these steps to debt-free living. Take stock. We're going to talk in a little bit more detail on each one, but we'll say knowing what you owe is taking stock. Make a plan. Work with your creditors, set goals, and create a spending plan or a budget. You'll hear us use the term spending plan more frequently, but a budget is the same thing. Work at it. Focus your attention on the plan and your goals, and then plan for the future. Build savings and create new goals. All right, so we will go into a little more detail on each one. So you want to make a list of everyone you owe money to, including your mortgage, student loans, credit cards, everybody, anybody, even money you've borrowed from family, of course. Include the balances, any minimum payment amounts, and the interest rates for each one. You want to pull out if you already have a spending plan or budget. If you don't, you want to create one and determine how much you can afford to pay above minimum. All right. And then you want, as a plan of action, is set your goals. Determine why. Um, it seems the obvious you want to get out of debt, but is there a reason? Are you wanting things paid off so that you can take advantage of seeing family more? That you can perhaps pursue a dream that you put on the back burner because you couldn't afford to? Determine why. Determine your needs versus your wants. Yeah, do you have to have the shoes, or is it because your work requires you to have a certain type of shoe? That's a need if your work requires it. It is a want if it's a stylish thing and you've got several pair that already look like that. What are you willing to sacrifice? Think about that. Is there something that would be worth giving up to have something else that may be even better, or in the long term that can benefit you? Have an emergency savings fund. That we can't emphasize enough. If you had a blowout, a tire go bad, an emergency with your child, you're at the urgent care center, anything that comes up, you need to be able to respond to that without immediately thinking of using a credit card or trying to borrow money to fix it, right? And then choose your debt payoff method. There's an answer to a system of doing what you need to do to get where you would like to be. And there's a method, right? So let's go there and talk about this.
Before we do that, Brenda, if you don't mind
Yeah,
going back, sorry to chime
sure,
in here. I
sure.
just wanted to kind of revisit this slide. I think from my seat on the bus that
Hmm.
making a plan of action is one of the most paramount steps to resolving to be debt free. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
you know, if you want to go somewhere, whether it be a trip or you jump in a car, typically you make a plan. You have
Hmm.
a roadmap, you have an itinerary, things like that, and that will dictate, the route you take and ultimately where you end up.
Definitely.
Um, and so the one bullet point that really jumps out to me, Brenda, is setting goals, determining that why. And I'm going to take it a step further and say, set SMART goals. For those of you that haven't heard that acronym, do a Google search.
Right.
Specific, measurable, shoot, what's the A?
Attainable.
Right? Relevant and time bound.
Hmm.
Right. So it really is important that you have something you can measure against, so that you do see those success stories come true. But yeah, I just wanted to chime in there and say that the plan is so important, and then
Yeah.
the actual execution, which is part of that plan, you're about to tell us about.
Yeah. Thank you for wanting to point that out, Jack. It's critical. I mean, and you see the big red stamp, action plan. I mean, you got to know what it is you want to achieve, and again, that roadmap for getting there.
Brenda, and I also
Mhm.
wanted to add that something that really helped me in my, I guess, journey to paying off debt is that I began to like constantly ask myself, is this a necessity or is this a luxury? Like when I would go shopping and I'd see something that I'd really like, I would think to myself, am I buying this because I truly need it, or am I buying this because I want to impress somebody? Because I feel like a lot of debt comes from us wanting to purchase things more so to impress somebody. And in reality, what's really impressive and stress free is to just be debt free.
It is.
So I think when people go into it thinking that way, it really makes a big difference.
You are dead on, Anna, and thank you for bringing that up, because we're in a society now where it is too easy to rack up debt. If you can't pay for it outright, or if you don't have a credit card to swipe, there are these four easy installments, and you can have the shoes,
Right.
it's just too easy to create a situation that's much harder to get out of. And like you said, more than likely, it's things that we don't need. They're things that we want, and we oftentimes will want these things for the wrong reasons.
Right. And then also when we talk about having an emergency savings account,
Mhm.
I have someone asking, should we pay off debt first or should we focus on the emergency funds?
Well, that's kind of a difficult question to answer holistically because every situation is different. It depends, of course, on the amount of debt we're looking at, but an emergency savings plan at minimum should start at about $1,000. And if you don't have $1,000 that you can just begin with, you can certainly, build that up. But you don't want to be in debt and have something come up and your only response is to borrow again. So think through on what your obligations are with all of your creditors, then making sure that you're also setting aside money. That's more critical than getting all of the debt paid first. That having that savings for an emergency is just as important or more important actually than having that clean slate right up front.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, good question, Anna. Thank you. So now we'll talk about the different debt payoff methods.
Good. And keep the questions coming, y'all, as she's going through these debt payoff methods. Here in a couple slides, we will have an opportunity to volley up some of the other questions for Brenda and Anna. So keep them coming, y'all. Some great questions I'm already seeing pop up, including that last one. So back to
Yeah,
you, Brenda.
definitely good questions. So there are three methods. And, if you followed us on our page on YouTube and gone back to many of these webinars in the past, you'll notice that we often mention these payoff methods. Um, we're going to talk about them again today. The debt snowball, and it is the process of paying off the lowest balance first. So what you would do is organize your debts by balance, pay down your debt by starting with the smallest first. You don't want to stop making minimum payments on all the other, but your focus is, of course, paying off this one debt at a time. And then once that debt is paid, then you can take the money that you are applying to that debt and use it to your next smallest debt. And the satisfaction of having a zero balance is elating. I've been there. Of course, I've also made the mistake of going back in debt, but this is a way that you can see some satisfaction that motivates you actually to keep going. Next, the debt avalanche. So you're going to, in this case, organize your debts by interest rate. You're going to focus on paying off the highest interest rate first. You will continue, of course, making all of your other minimum payments. You're not stopping payments on anything, but you're paying that first highest interest rate loan or credit card off first. It's the most cost effective strategy for borrowers who have a lot of high interest on their balances, right? And then finally, debt consolidation. So one thing I want to point out about debt consolidation, it sounds like a payoff method. And of course, depending on your situation, it can give you a lot of peace. It can give you a lot of opportunity, but it's not paying off necessarily. It's simply putting all of your debt in one payment and refinancing that debt into a new loan. Now, one of the things about a consolidation, it is a little hard to get approved because typically your credit score has to be in a good place. And not only that, but if you have a lot of debt, then a higher amount may be more difficult also to attain in a new loan. The risk, though, is what I want to point out. The risk of a consolidation is the opportunity now to see these cards that you just paid off. They're free. Your personal loans are paid off. You you've got all this open line of credit that you could use. And some people don't have the discipline to change their habit permanently and let that debt alone, focus still on paying off this new single debt. So you have to be really careful with that because your habits really have to be changed. You have to be motivated and be willing to go the distance because you could potentially create a situation where now you've got everything in this one big payment, but you're now using your old credit cards again, and now you're in a worse place. So you want to be careful with that, and you want to give it a lot of consideration. All right.
Brenda, and I wanted to add something before we move on to the next slide.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention the powerpay.org website that is free for everyone. I think that's a really cool website because you can put in all your debt, the amounts and whatnot, the interest rates on them, the minimum payment on them,
Hmm.
and you're able to select and see if you were to do the debt snowball, if you were to do the debt avalanche, which one would save you the most money in the end. So I think that's a really cool tool to
Right.
to use and see which one would save you the most money. It's called powerpay.org.
Smart, Anna. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, very
Thank you,
smart.
Brenda.
Yeah, powerpay.org. Check it out, guys. That I think it could benefit you. Even if you aren't ready to, start the process quite yet, information is power. So thank you, Anna. And guess what? We're back at another poll, Jack.
Yeah, we just want to get a quick pulse of the room. We went over some different debt payoff methodologies, strategies, if you will. Want to know which one sounds the best to you? We talked about the debt snowball, where you focus on the smallest debt first, as far as where you're allocating any kind of extra payments. We talked about the debt avalanche method, which is where you focus on the highest interest debt first in allocating your extra payments. And then we also talked about the debt consolidation methodology, where you hopefully, assuming you're approved for it, can kind of bring all of your debt under one roof so that you have a single payment or maybe other. And it's important to note all of these can, or most of these can be used in conjunction with one another potentially. So just want to know what resonated with y'all. Personally, Brenda, I like the debt avalanche. I'm a very value conscious person, but I understand
Mhm.
there's those that need that early returns, that early success story. For me, I can rationalize the lack of early success with the fact that I'm saving money in the long run. But that's how I tackled my
Yeah.
debt back.
Yeah. Oh, that's it, whatever works, Jack.
Whatever
There's
it
no right or
works.
wrong answer. Um, Personally, I prefer the snowball because I like instant gratification. And
Yep.
I feel like that allows me the that
Well,
snowball.
it's kind of funny. We're kind of a mixed opinion here between you and I, as
Yeah,
is our respondents. It looks like
yeah,
25% said debt snowball, 24% said debt avalanche, so neck and neck there.
yeah.
Handful said debt consolidation, and a handful also could not find the polling option. So, but we do
Oh,
appreciate
sorry
y'all's
about that.
responses. We're glad to know that everyone is kind of considering which methodology would work best for you,
Yeah.
and considering working it into the plan. I know we've got two more steps before we're, completely resolved to be debt free. But I think, Brenda, we've got an opportunity to volley some questions to you. So I'll turn it over to Anna for a couple that are in the queue right now.
Okay.
And for those of you that are still, considering some questions, feel free to type them in and we'll make sure that Brenda and Anna get a chance to answer them.
Hey, Brenda. So I have a question here from one of our listeners. And so he's saying that he had an emergency savings account, but had to use it because COVID happened. What advice would you give for them to get it back? They're about 10,000 in credit card debt, and they want to know if they should withdraw money from their 401k to pay off their credit card and they're 59 years old?
Well, I'll start by addressing the importance of retirement and having those monies available when that time comes. I would not encourage withdrawing from the 401k as a solution. If you're simply trying to rebuild an emergency fund, just continue to slowly put money back. Look at all of your bills, look at your basically your spending plan, your budget, see how much you have that you can allot toward putting back in savings at the end of each month and then build that back up. But I really don't ever like to encourage using funds that are designated for your retirement as a solution for something that can be handled if you just are a little bit more diligent with what you already have that you're working with.
I agree. So there's another question, a little similar. It says thoughts on a consolidation loan versus just taking out a 401k loan.
Hmm, similar. Okay.
Mhm.
No, we don't want to take from the 401k if we don't have to. I'm sure there are situations that warrant basically without option, but the consolidation loan, first you have to consider that there are high qualifications for that amount of money, potentially, depending on how much you're looking to consolidate, but your credit score has to be in line, all of that. And then for the reasons that we spoke about earlier, if you don't have the habits that got you into debt in the first place changed, if you've not been diligent about managing what you already have, good stewards of what you've used in the past, then that bad habit of credit card usage and debt is I'm sorry to say, more likely to creep up again. So unless you are 100% committed to never going back to those cards again, unless, and not to say that use of a credit card is bad, particularly if you can pay it off at the end of every month, but it shouldn't be a lifestyle. So I to answer the question, I would definitely forego withdrawing from the 401k. If you can qualify for a consolidation, you can certainly be considered for that, but make sure that your habits and your goals going forward are in line with the rest of your future.
And Brenda, I might point out, there's a lot of questions here related to, 401k retirement, things of that nature. We do
Yeah.
have our flagship financial group, which are financial advisors that are probably, well, not probably, they are more
Hmm.
qualified to talk to that.
Yeah.
As
Yeah.
far as pulling from your 401k or borrowing from your 401k, there are tons of mixed opinions on what's best. And the
Yeah.
reason is everyone's situation is different. So I would say, it's not always a good or a bad thing. Bring it spot on that whatever you're saving for, you want those funds to fulfill its purpose. And when you're talking about 401k, retirement is that purpose. But there may be mitigating circumstances where that could be the best for you. So I would highly encourage anyone that's looking at incorporating their retirement into tackling debt or anything like that to reach out to advisors and trusted experts. We, again, do have the flagship financial group within the credit union that you can work with in order to see if that's the best solution for you.
Thank you, Jack. That's great advice and definitely a free service to our members. And I would definitely recommend they take advantage of that, especially on something as important as that question.
Brenda, and I think we have time for one last question, and then any other questions we can probably go ahead and answer towards the end of this. The
Okay.
last question on here that I have for you is I have a listener saying that they have about $6,000 worth of credit card debt and they have $4,000 in their emergency savings. Should they use that money to pay off debt?
Well, when you think about what our minimum amount to save is, $1,000, right? We want to always have at least $1,000. Then it becomes a personal decision if you want to take the difference and apply it toward that credit card. Um, Without having a lot more information, I would ask them to think about anything that could be coming up in the future. Do you have expenses that might present more than, your immediate availability? Do you have money that you could respond to outside of, I guess, needing to draw from the emergency fund? Are your working assets enough? There's a lot of reasons that maybe and maybe not, but if they wanted to reduce what they owe and they only have the one credit card and they're committed, of course, to changing habits and usage and all of that, it may not be a bad thing to at least apply a portion to reduce it.
Right. I would say the same. Yep.
All right, so we do have a couple more questions in the queue. Keep them coming, y'all. Time allowing, we have another opportunity towards the end to circle back around to those. Brenda, we're through steps 1 and 2 of paying down debt, and we just wanted
Hmm.
to pause to address some of the previous slides since there were some big concepts.
Yeah.
But please carry us on in this journey, and we'll figure out the final steps.
All right. Great. So debt free just ahead. So we've talked about the options for debt payoff. Again, emphasizing that consolidation is not necessarily a payoff plan, but definitely a tool. Um, Use your spending plan every month. If you don't have one and you need help setting up, creating a budget, understanding how to track expenses, etc., call us. That's what we are here for. We would love to be able to sit down with you, look at your expenses, look at what your income is, if anyone else is contributing to the household, and just talk it out and help you to understand income and outgo, because ultimately that's all it comes down to. And if you have to adjust some things, which might mean not spending as much on something that you enjoy, maybe reducing an expense on it, not necessarily cutting anything out. We definitely would, you know, look at all of the, not something that's going to happen overnight. Let's be honest, um, learning to live on less, define needs versus wants, making big changes in your household, keeping your children involved if you have children, your spouse, everyone should know what's going on. That way, as you're working toward your goal of eventually being debt free, they can be on board with that and help you to achieve that as a family, if there's a family dynamic, or as an individual. Think about the times that you might be considering going out for lunch, you really can't afford to, but everyone else is, make those decisions on an individual basis versus what's working for everyone else. Changing habits takes time. Okay. And then finally, we're there. You want to, now that you know you've got everything kind of under control, you know how much money's coming in, how much is going out, set new goals. You can focus on savings, and you may want to create buckets for the things that are important to you. But remember that emergency fund and eventual retirement, possibly investments, are all things that you want to keep in mind. And then now that you are in this good place, maintain it. Maintain your positive spending habits. It's easy to fall back into the same traps. And it's, again, not something that happened overnight. So it's an everyday effort to continue to maintain those positive spending habits that you've now developed and can see some light at the end of the tunnel. All right. Poll question.
All right, so this is kind of an inspirational question to get you thinking and to maybe help you achieve that goal or that vision that we talked about earlier that's paramount in your journey to pay off debt. So, if you didn't have a monthly burden of debt, what would you do with those extra savings? Would you A, take some more vacations, B, add to your retirement savings, C, take on a new hobby, or D, other? I'm just going to be completely candid here. As much as it's exciting to take vacations or take on new hobbies, when I paid off my debt, primary or most all of my high interest debt, I allocated those monies to retirement savings. I figure I can take those vacations and start new hobbies on down the road. Brenda, did you have any goals whenever you paid off debt?
hmm It was just, again, with my family all being so spread out and my husband's family the same, that's been the most emphasis, that the exclamation point has been on, I guess, if you want to call it vacations, but just being around family as much as possible. So we've done a lot of that lately, um, and want to be able to continue to doing that because you always think of a simple trip. You're just going to see family, but sometimes staying at the family home is not an option. So you've got a hotel, you've got food. If you don't, drive your own vehicle, then you're in a rental car. So it takes money to do all of that. And without the monthly burden of debt, you can afford to, enjoy some things that you wouldn't otherwise.
There's a number of people that agreed with you. 14% said take more vacations. 30%, which was the majority, would like to add more to their retirement savings. Handful, 6% said take on a new hobby as well as other. And then we have a few that couldn't find it. But the overwhelming majority, kudos to everybody for being financially savvy here and dreaming to allocate more to your retirement savings.
Yes, that's always a good thing. You can't have too much money there. All right. So, Anna, if you're able, would you like to tell them a little more about our team and what we do?
Yes, of course. So in our department, we love to educate our members, or you don't even necessarily have to be a member of the credit union. We're all certified credit union financial counselors. And not only have we taken the certification to be able to counsel you, but we've all had the same experience. That you have. Okay, so this is not new to us. This is something that we've been through, and we love it. Like I said, educating our members. We like to help organize your finances, see what your finances are looking like at the end of the month. Begin talking about what's going to be more convenient for you, what's going to help your boost your credit score the fastest, what's going to help you get approved for that mortgage, that car loan that you're needing, if it's to pay off debt or prepare for retirement. We talk about all of that stuff in several sessions, and once again, this is all free for you, so there is no reason why our participants shouldn't contact us and get to have an appointment with us, and we can talk about all kinds of things and answer any questions.
Excellent. So true. And we hope that if you aren't already communicating with us, that you'll start right away. This is a new year, a new opportunity for us to make some new friends and, help to see some differences made for our members. So thank you for that, Anna. Right. And then we'll go and Anna, again, would you like to talk about all the different products and solutions we might be able to offer?
Yes, so as you can see here, we have the navigator that is completely free for you. Okay, so if you go onto our website, AmericanAirlinesCreditUnion.org, you can find the Navigator. So what the Navigator is this awesome website where you can watch so many different videos on so many different topics that you can read and see at your own pace. And they're all educational videos, and they talk from everything from investing to saving to prepare how to prepare a budget, a spending plan, all kinds of good stuff. Once again, that is free for you. There's also articles, so it won't just be videos. We have the wellness checkup, which is the appointments with us. Credit monitoring through Savvy Money. If you have our app downloaded on your phone, you can access that. Once again, that is also free for you, and it does not hurt your credit to check your credit score on Savvy Money. Okay, we also have educational seminars, as we are doing so right now. This is a webinar, but we also offer some seminars. I think the next one that might be coming up will be in the summer sometimes, and that is for our teens. That's something that we do yearly, Teens and Money. So not only adults, but teens, to get them prepared so that they don't have to go through the things that we have.
Mhm.
That's some of the seminars we do. And lastly, emergency funds. Once again, as Brenda was mentioning earlier, how to prepare for emergencies without having to take out debt, and lots of good stuff we can talk about.
Yeah. And Anna, so your chance again to plug the program that you mentioned earlier,
Power Pay.
Power Pay.
Yes, Power Pay. So that is not owned by the credit union. That is an independent website. Once again, we can view it together. We can put in your debt, the balances, and work on that together. So there's a lot of cool tools that we can use and refer you to that might not even necessarily belong to the credit union, but that we know are legit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
very excellent. All right. So here we are. We're going to turn it over to Jack and give him an
Absolutely. So
opportunity to.
we've got a couple PSAs for you. I know we've got about 10 minutes left and we do have a couple questions we want to save time for. But before we do that, we want to remind everybody on the call today that most, if not all, of our loans and savings products require a basic membership with the credit union. So if nothing else, consider opening a share savings account. And to entice you or incentivize you to do so, you can actually scan this QR code, and at the very end of your online application, when you use promo code B as in boy, D as in dog, 4412, that's BD 4412, we will credit your initial new member deposit, so you have nothing to lose. This can be offered to family members as well, which I'll get to in a moment. But the other benefit of becoming an American Airlines Credit Union member is that once you're a member, you're always a member. So, if you had a family member or you're in a career in the air transportation industry and that career or that relationship goes elsewhere, you can retain that membership. We also want to point out some other offers in addition to that new member offer that we have right now going for the quarter. Before I go into any details or highlight any of those, I do want to point out that all of our quarterly offers are available at aacreditunion.org/offers, or you can scan the QR code here. And as a gentle reminder, anyone that wants a copy of today's presentation, because you don't have time to snap the QR code or anything like that, you can request that on the survey that'll arrive in your inboxes here in the next 8 minutes or so. But as far as the offers we have right now that I want to point out, the first one is your family members are eligible. So we're talking about grandparents, parents, brothers, sisters, spouses, kids, grandkids, or anyone that lives with you are all eligible if you're already a member. What that means for you is that you can earn $25 for each referral that joins, up to $250 a year. So again, share the gift of membership, put a little money in your pocket, maybe help pay off that debt while helping out a family member achieve financial wellness. And speaking of financial wellness, we always want to point out, as Anna and Brenda mentioned, that our financial wellness checkups are available with an appointment. You can use the contact information we shared a couple slides ago to schedule those complimentary, AKA free financial checkups with a certified financial counselor in our financial wellness department. And keeping on the theme of financial wellness and taking stock in your own success, we mentioned the Navigator a moment ago. We're actually running a promotion right now where you earn experience points, which are calculated based on the different modules, lessons, games, etc., available on the Navigator. And we will choose 3 winners for $1,000 cash. That promo expires at the end of the month. So be sure to check that out. Not only are you taking stock in your own financial wellness, but you have an incentive on the back end of that. All right. There's other promos out there. Feel free to visit the website and see what matches for you. But at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Anna and Brenda for a few more questions that we have before we sign off.
Okay, Brenda. So it looks like we have a question here. One of the listeners says that they have nearly paid off all of their credit card debt, except for student loan debt. So they have a few $1,000s in student loan debt, and the student loan has a very low interest rate. They're asking, is it better to pay off the loan as soon as possible, pay it off early, or to keep paying the minimum on this debt since it's quote unquote a good debt? She says she's heard that it can negatively impact their credit score if they pay off a loan too soon.
Well, it is true that debt that is paid off early can impact your credit score, but this is typically other things, not necessarily student loans. And when I say other, I mean a mortgage, a house. If you paid off something significant, even a credit card, those things could cause your score to drop, but it would be temporary. It would rebound in a couple months. So it's not the end of the world for that to happen. But I would ask this listener first if they are A, able to take advantage of any of the programs that might qualify them for forgiveness on the loan. If they've already investigated this and find it, that's not an option, and it's not going to be a deal breaker for them to pay it off.
And I just want to chime in. I know this is probably getting in the weeds a little bit, but there's a thing called opportunity cost. So if you have low interest debt or anything along those lines, um, you may be able to make more interest somewhere else. So it really is about prioritizing, if that low interest debt is worth paying off, great. But if you could make more money with those funds you would allocate to that, you may be better off. And then we also go back to the idea of establishing that emergency savings, contributing to your 401k. What is your priority and what do you need right now? But I think the takeaway there is you want to tackle it, and it's just a matter of how high of a priority and what funds do you have to pay it down that could potentially be used for other opportunities.
Excellent answer. I agree with that, Jack. Very good.
And then one last question that we have here is someone is asking, is it easier to apply for a personal loan to pay off debt or a consolidation loan? Is the process to apply for them the same, or is maybe a personal loan easier, since you mentioned earlier that a consolidation loan is not always that easy to get?
Sure. So the reason that I pointed out a consolidation loan may be more difficult is because typically the amount is more than, significantly more. You're combining numbers of different debt, right? So the amount can be substantial. And you have to have a really high credit score. I mean, when I say that, of course, I don't have a rate chart in front of me, but a great credit score is always in your favor when you're asking for something like that. And if you don't have, everything in order, then the likelihood of an approval is less. Okay. So a personal loan, again, a credit score that's, within range of acceptability, um, as well as, other debt, your income, all of that is going to factor into an approval. So the process in and of itself is the same. You'll still go through, our lender to find out, talk with the loan officer, and who knows what might happen. You may be in a better position than what you think. Um, but talking with the loan officer is a first step, right?
Right.
But before doing that, I said that's the first step, but I would encourage our members to use our tools, Savvy Money, know what your scores are, look at, your credit usage. Ideally, you wouldn't be using more than 30% on your credit cards. Make sure your balances are low, payments are on time, things like that. And usually, I know for myself, whenever I've applied for anything, I know where things stand when I go, right? And that's what I would encourage for our members to just be in a good place. And if that means talking with one of us first, that would be a good step.
Always a good idea. Yes, ma'am.
And I want to point in just something I thought, and I just want to run it by you, Brenda. As far as a consolidation loan goes,
Yeah,
I like to approach that kind of as more of a concept. Like, right,
yeah,
while we have a consolidation loan, the the actual term means you are taking a different areas of debt and you are putting it into one other loan.
yeah,
So a personal loan could be a consolidation loan, a cash out refinance on a mortgage or a home
yeah.
or anything like that. The
Hmm.
theory of a consolidation loan still applies, right?
All
So
right.
the goal there is to take high interest debt or debt that's holding you back,
Hmm.
and to put it in one place so that it's easier to manage. Maybe you have a lower monthly payment, maybe you have a lower interest rate. And because there are so many caveats that you can, or pathways you can go down in the idea of a consolidation loan, it can be difficult to qualify for depending on your situation. If you've got equity in your vehicle, then more often than not, that's going to be a lower interest rate, and more often than not, you'll have a better chance of approval than say a unsecured
Hmm.
loan or something like that. So, but the takeaway there is, Brenda's right. Visit with a loan officer, visit with somebody from our financial wellness group, and they will seek to find a financial solution that is best for you.
Right, right. And sometimes, Jack, let's just be real. The solution is don't do anything right now. So, you know what I mean? We always think we can borrow our way out of our problems. Or for me, that's what I used to think, I'll just get along and then do this and then no, it doesn't work like that. And sometimes you can create more problems than you already have by, as we spoke about with the consolidation, going back to debt that was just paid off. And now, guess what? You've run it up again. So, lots of things to think about, and changing habits is a priority. You've got to be prepared whenever you start to investigate ways to improve your life.
Well, I think that's about it for time. We're a couple minutes over, but just want to kind of send y'all off with some final thoughts here. First of all, if we didn't get to your question, or if yours is more personal in nature, strongly encourage you to fill out that survey where you can indicate you'd like to have a credit union representative reach out to you. Keep an eye out at aacreditunion.org/events, where we will have all of our financial wellness topics throughout the year posted. We should have our February offerings up soon. And lastly, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. I know I said Twitter, it's called X now. So be sure to follow us there for helpful financial tips and alerts regarding our upcoming events. On behalf of Sarah running the polls, Anna helping with the Q&A, Butel working on the back end, Brenda, our subject matter expert, and myself, as well as the entire credit union, we want to encourage you all to stay safe, healthy, and happy out there. Brenda, I'll give you the final word. Is there anything else you want to add?
I'll just say make this the best year yet. Continue to work hard on what you already are working toward. Put your priorities in order, and it is never too early to make a change. keep your habits in focus.